Alright, YouTube and Bethesda community, so today guys we have a handful of leaks about the Bethesda E3 2017 showcase. As with any leak, you just need to take this with a grain of salt because you just never know until it's actually confirmed by the game studio, not just Bethesda, but any kind of leaks for any games or anything ever. Until it's, confirmed by the developer of whatever the media might be, just take it with a grain of salt. Our information comes from a user on 4chan who claims to have, worked with Bethesda, the usual stuff when it comes to any kind of leaks, like, oh, I'm a former disgruntled employee at X fucking developer, and I have information about their next big game. It's the usual standard stuff. That doesn't mean it's not real, doesn't necessarily mean it's fake either. They start off the post with, I'm a leaker at Bethesda, and I wanted to lay out their plans for the future for you guys and give you some pre-E3 leaks. Firstly, I'm speaking only about Bethesda Game Studios here, not the publisher. There will be a few announcements at E3. One is a new major title from Bethesda themselves as well. The two major announcements are Fallout 4 VR and Starfield. Now, this one's not really a big deal. Like, obviously, we already knew about Fallout 4 VR. I'm pretty sure they've already confirmed this. I don't really qualify this as a leak. We know that we're getting something Fallout 4 VR at E3 2017. Now, as for Starfield, now I know I'm a Bethesda-based channel, but I don't cover every goddamn thing that they do. The channel wouldn't be that interesting because I wouldn't be that knowledgeable about the stuff. I don't really know much about Starfield. I know it's supposed to be like the big thing at least this year for E3. It's some new IP of theirs. It's supposed to be similar to like Fallout, Elder Scrolls type of gameplay, but like space and super far into the future. Be able to travel between planets, stuff like that. They are working on Skyrim VR as well, but they aren't sure if they are going to show it yet since they don't want it to take the light away from Fallout 4 VR or Starfield. Now, if this is true, it is a bit interesting. We already know they're supposed to be bringing out Skyrim on Nintendo Switch, but like if they're also going to work on Skyrim VR, like they have beat Skyrim to fucking death, man. It's kind of crazy. I've bitched about it in the past about like it's a bit much. Like I'd rather them instead of working on Skyrim VR if they are indeed doing that, or even the Nintendo Switch Skyrim, like why don't they remake Oblivion or remake Morrowind with like better graphics or something? I'd rather them do that than beat the shit out of Skyrim. Skyrim is fucking dead at this point. On to Starfield. The game has actually been in conceptual stages since around Fallout 3's release. It went into pre-production officially, very low-tier pre-production after Skyrim release. After Fallout 4's release, it went into full pre-production, and after all the DLC was out, they sped into full development. The game is going to be a sci-fi open-world RPG in typical Bethesda first-person fashion. It's going to feature 5 to 10 races. There's still some debate on what should and shouldn't go in, and takes place in the Fallout universe just so far into the future and far away from Earth that it'll only be mentioned in hints. This is part of an ongoing planned interconnected universe of every Bethesda franchise. They gave hints of this by implying the Brotherhood of Steel created Nirnroot in Fallout 4. They're getting a little wacky with the lore and using Elder Scrolls time wounds to justify lore inconsistencies. Basically, Fallout is the beginning of the timeline, Starfield is in the middle, and Elder Scrolls is far future. Now, this is a pretty heavy claim. They're trying to claim that Fallout, Elder Scrolls, and apparently Starfield are all in the same universe. It's all connected somehow. Maybe not on the same planet, but in the same universe. Kind of like, I guess, the MCU. I think they're trying to... It's pretty cool if it's true that Bethesda might be doing some kind of, Marvel Cinematic Universe type of thing with all of their games. They're somehow all connected. And it is possible, because if in Doom they had, a little Vault-Tec logo, in Fallout 4 they had the Nirnroot on the Pridwin. They had, they were growing something that looked just like Nirnroot. They also... There's a magazine. I did a video on it a long time ago. There's one of the magazines you can collect at Fallout 4, and it has the Skyrim, the iconic iron helmet with, the horns. There's a magazine that had that logo on the front. Just little things like that. Maybe this is true. I don't know for sure, but it is a heavy claim. The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is that they're claiming that, Fallout's, kind of current, time. Starfield's in the middle, and Elder Scrolls in the future. How the fuck is it possible that, Elder Scrolls being all medieval and shit? That seems like it'd be more of a past thing. I don't know. I don't know how it makes sense that it's super far in the future. I feel like Starfield would be the furthest. The game will feature space travel and hub worlds as well as an RNG worlds. It's meant to be a test into more sandbox, Minecraft-ish AAA thing, but with Bethesda gameplay and still actual designed worlds, quests, etc. So what they're saying there is that Starfield is supposed to have randomly generated worlds similar to, No Man's Sky. I know, No Man's Sky is, the worst comparison ever, but the idea of No Man's Sky was good. The amount of worlds, the fact that you can actually go down on them and explore them and all that shit. They're claiming it's something like that, but it's going to be full-fledged design worlds with quests and everything like a typical Bethesda game would have. So that, to me, sounds very fucking interesting, if it's true. They have another fantasy game of a famous franchise in the works. Game of Thrones and pre-production Elder Scrolls 6 and conceptual for Elder Scrolls 7, which is Todd's magnum opus. So they're claiming that Bethesda is working on some sort of Game of Thrones game. Now this is actually kind of logical because this is kind of what Elder Scrolls and really Skyrim was, is medieval type of setting with the look and everything, and then dragons and I don't know if there's magic in Game of Thrones because I have not watched the show yet, but there's magic and all this other shit, all these different kind of monsters. So that's very possible. I don't know. It's kind of a bold claim as well. We'll see. Elder Scrolls 6 pre-production, yeah, I believe that. Elder Scrolls 7 conceptual. Now this one is where they kind of lose me because we're pretty far off from Elder Scrolls 6 if we're to believe Bethesda. And the fact that they're already conceptualizing shit for Elder Scrolls 7 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Maybe they do it pretty early. Maybe they start drawing up shit. But if they're not even finished with like making the game, Elder Scrolls 6, how are you already working on Elder Scrolls 7? Put that shit on the back burner. Don't worry about that. Fuck with Elder Scrolls 6 and just that. In a later reply on the 4chan post, he goes on to say, if you're asking about the Elder Scrolls 6 or the Elder Scrolls 7, well, 6 is planned to take place on Akavir. It's going to have Bethesda's biggest designed open world yet, and will feature an upgraded and highly advanced version of the settlement system from Fallout 4. Basically, the plot is you're a prisoner sent on an Imperial colonial ship to the continent of Akavir. The reason the settlement mode will be a thing, but even bigger, is because you're going to be building colonies on said continent. The game will feature 4 new races, but they're not sure if they want to include all of them as playable. One of the races is human, and is the first Asian race in the franchise and is based off the Japanese. The second is a humanoid monkey race. Third is debated by the team to either be a humanoid snake race or a parasite race. Fourth race is a humanoid tiger race. Now those are some kind of bold claims. I'm not saying that they won't make more animal stuff, but we already have the Khajiit, so it'd be kind of weird to have like a tiger race because that seems somewhat similar. And then I guess a snake race would be somewhat similar to the Argonians. Not exactly, because Argonians are like humanoid, they'll walk upright, and I'm guessing a snake race would have like a tail and all that shit, no fucking legs at all. But just saying, it'd be kind of similar to the Argonians. Now, a parasite race sounds very fucking interesting. I don't even know what that would even begin to look like, because a parasite is like microscopic. The parasites are pretty fucking small, so I don't even know how that would be a race you could choose, but it sounds interesting. They also go on to say, the reason why The Elder Scrolls 7 is Todd's magnum opus is because he wants 7 to take place in the entire continent of Tamriel, but with current technology he doesn't want to try and build it because he wants the game to feature full destructibility. A return to roots in advanced RPG mechanics, yet still have more action-y combat. He wants to make the size of the world be more accurate to canon, which none of the game post-Daggerfall have done. If you want to know what the story is going to be, there's some debate, but the one the team is leaning towards is the Dwemer have been preparing for an invasion of Tamriel in a pocket dimension, and the game's gimmick, other than taking place in all of Tamriel and advanced customization, will be the inclusion of flintlock pistols, blunderbusses, and etc., and steampunk elements because of the Dwemer. The team actually did some inspiration from the trailers of No Man's Sky, but the game is more like Star Citizen if it was made by Bethesda. So yet again, we have here another bold claim. He claims that the story of Elder Scrolls 7 is going to take place in all of Tamriel, the entire fucking continent, which is kind of feasible. It's almost what Elder Scrolls Online is. Just, I guess it wouldn't be an MMO, it'd just be a single person game. I don't know why that seems like out of the realm of possibility for current consoles. ESO does it pretty well. Anyways, the story of it is that I guess the Dwemer are sitting in, because Dwemer are supposed to be gone or whatever, at least in Skyrim standards, the Dwemer have been wiped out or something like that. But apparently they've been sitting in some sort of pocket dimension, and they're planning to invade Tamriel and just take it over. And because of them being all steampunky and kind of sort of futuristic compared to everything else in the Elder Scrolls universe, there's going to actually be like flintlock pistols and steampunk shit and blunderbusses and stuff. That sounds pretty fucking cool to me. It'd be kind of nice to have these, because you could do it with what the Dwemer technology is. You could actually have guns. So it sounds pretty cool to me. It seems like a lot of info for them to not even be close to finish with Elder Scrolls 6, to already have all this shit planned out for Elder Scrolls 7. I don't know if I want it to be real. Let's just say that. Later in the post, he hits us with some release dates. He says, also, if anyone wants a timeline of the game's estimated release date, here it is. Starfield 2017, Game of Thrones Project 2020, The Elder Scrolls 6 2023, Fallout Project 2025, and The Elder Scrolls 7 2030. Man, those dates are far off. He also hits us with a lot of info about the apparent Fallout project in 2025. He says they want it to be the scale version of a post-apocalyptic New York City and some surrounding areas, and want to make the rumor of it being blown up simply being a myth. They're taking the criticism about Fallout 4 seriously and plan to reintroduce the skill system, fuck yeah, if that's true, but in a more Skyrim-esque fashion as well. That's even better. The game will still feature more action-based combat, but they are revamping the dialogue system to be more like New Vegas, as well as removing the voice protagonist. I'm okay with that. They're debating whether to go with the cliche route of starting your character off in a vault or starting you off more similar to a blank slate character like New Vegas, which would allow you to choose more arbitrary characteristics like being a ghoul, android, etc. And I'm cool with all that shit too. The game will feature augmentations as well as dystopian cyberpunk menicity in a dome which was untouched by the war. They originally actually wanted that to be in Fallout 4 but never got around to it. Everything about that apparent Fallout project in 2025 makes me sexually excited. Like, the fact that you could choose to be as a ghoul, I always wonder why we couldn't do that anyway. The fact that you could choose to be a robot or an android or something is just as cool. I wonder why we always could only choose to be a human. It'd be kind of cool if you could be like a smaller version of a super mutant as well. That'd be kind of interesting to see what the dialogue options would be if you were also a super mutant, how people would react to you, or how people would react to you if you're a ghoul and shit too, because ghouls are kind of shunned and looked at as like zombies and shit in the Fallout universe. A lot of cool, interesting things could come from this Fallout project. The fact that it might take place in New York City and pretty to the scale of New York City, and that it actually wasn't destroyed because in lore it's supposed to be destroyed or something like that. I think it is directly impacted by a bomb or something, if I remember correctly. So all this sounds cool, like a dome city that survived the war, is untouched by the war. That sounds pretty interesting as well. I would like it to know, I've actually mentioned this with the Fallout New Vegas 2 leaks and rumors and shit, why it would be good, is that I like the Fallout New Vegas approach where you didn't start in a fucking vault. I know vaults are so important to the Fallout universe, but I kind of liked it starting somewhere else. He also goes on to discuss the companions in this Fallout project and says the game features 12 well-designed companions similar to the companions in Fallout 4, all of which can be romance, but also has generic companions similar to Skyrim's, which can be romance/married as well, but with much more generic dialogue options. The game will not have a limit on the amount of people you can romance, just like Fallout 4, meaning you can have your harem of alien waifus if that is your desire. The game also features alien prostitutes. I want me an alien prostitute. They also say the game will actually feature 5 separate questlines based on which faction you join. One questline is reserved for loners if you don't like any of the factions and want to tackle what's going on your own. Alright, so the companion stuff sounds pretty good, but the fact that they're trying to say that there's alien races and alien prostitutes seems a little bit much to me, because it seems like with all the Fallout games, they've always kind of been like an Easter egg with the aliens. Never been like straight up, there's alien races, guys. Aliens exist. It's like you had to take like the Wild Wasteland Park in like New Vegas to even see aliens. In Fallout 3, there's an entire DLC dedicated to it, but it wasn't really something you see in the main world. And in Fallout 4, there's like a little Easter egg with aliens crashing and shit. But they've never been like a major part of the game, so it seems kind of weird that they're just straight up like, here's, potentially Fallout 5. Aliens are a thing, guys. They exist now. It's just in the game. So that seems a little bit much to me. Having a bunch of companions, the fact that you can romance them all seems pretty cool. Instead of just one at a time like the older Fallout games, seems more like a Fallout 4 thing. I'm all about that shit. As for the faction-based questlines, that sounds pretty interesting to me. Something like that New Vegas did, where you choose to join with all these other factions. It seems a little more like Fallout 4, where you can only choose one faction at a time. You follow their questline, probably cancel out everything else. Or you can do an independent thing, which New Vegas actually had, where you can do like independent New Vegas. You don't have to side with anybody if you didn't want to do your own thing. That all sounds good to me. And to wrap up his post, or at least what we're going to cover from the 4chan post, is that he says there should be something with Wolfenstein at E3. There's a possibility of a Doom spin-off game, something like Wolfenstein Old Blood. A possible Doom sequel, and Dishonored 2 and Prey DLC is possible. So that seems kind of interesting. Those all seem logical to me. I don't know necessarily about a Doom spin-off or a sequel. I don't know. Maybe, I guess, Wolfenstein is pretty much more or less confirmed, I think. Seems like the big one that people are talking about, that and Starfield. And then DLC for Dishonored 2 and Prey just makes sense. So those seem pretty legit. Anyways, guys, that's where we're going to end the video. It's gone on so much longer than I planned for it to. I didn't realize there was this.
Till it comes to conclusions, all the things that we thought we were losing. I'm a ghost and you know this. That's why we broke up in the first place. Cause I want you to know that I'm ready to go. Heartbeat, my heart.